welcome to Push Your Glasses Up. I'm Mikey, and today I'm joined once again by friend of the show, Capt Cash, to talk about Peacemaker. Welcome back to the show.
Very pleased to be here. Very excited to talk Peacemaker. I love this show.
As I did last time, I showed a little bit of your cosplay, even though you were also in it, which you are in again when we talked about Hawkeye. So you are in your Peacemaker costume, but I do have a little bit cleaner image that people can see that is on your Instagram, which I will link in the bio once again, or in the caption rather. And so yeah, you've been into this character for a good long while.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'd have worn the helmet, but I can't wear the helmet and the headset and talk at the same time, so I just have the helmet prominently displayed back here.
You gotta get buds.
Really,
you gotta get buds and a mic.
But listen, the noise canceling effect. I have kids. And
That's
noise
true.
canceling effect is just so nice.
To be fair, though, if they were around and it was canceling noise, that's only for you. The microphone would still.
Good point. Good point.
Technology. But yeah, we are here to talk about Peacemaker. Let me get this blinding white light out of my eye. Better. How, in general, do you feel about how this show came out? I think I have a good idea.
So, how it came out in the sense that why I think it was released and what I had heard from James Gunn, or my personal opinion of how kind of
more your opinion on the show itself. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because honestly, I was primed to like this show anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
I did the Peacemaker cosplay originally for the Suicide Squad, and when I saw that it was getting a show, I'm like, okay, cool, I'm here for that.
It gives you a little bit more life in what you've put into it.
I cannot tell you how stressed I was when I realized from the trailers, like, oh, it's a new helmet. Oh no, it's like a bunch of new helmets.
Oh no, it's 46 new helmets.
Do I have to make all of those? I mean, these are 3D printed, so it's not like I'm doing a lot of work. It's
the ridges, though. It's all that rim.
Exactly. Oh my god. Yeah, but I was primed to like this show. And I watched the first 3 episodes when they all dropped, just excited to check it out. And I'm like, okay, well, this is good. But it was episode 4 where I was like, oh, wow, no, actually, this is going to be great, not just good. I expected it to be funny and it to be, like, James Gunn hasn't missed any time in the last, like, decade or so.
At least not when he's directing. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So I was kind of like, it's going to be good. But, man, by episode 4, when you start to get all the reveals of what everybody else is hiding and you start to sense that, oh, there's a lot of depth to these people. They're not just one-note jokes. That I was like, wow, very, very impressed.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat where I would say I was already like, even before that, I could see the potential of that stuff coming through in the early episodes, because you do have some of that set up with like Peacemaker's father and that kind of stuff. Yeah. Obviously, the sort of gravitas hit of like John Cena's actual acting comes a little more in the second half of the show, but like you can see it early on and you can see the sort of poignant stuff that they're going for with it. But like, you are absolutely right. It's episode 4 when the plot sort of like unveils itself more, and as opposed to them just like, we're doing this job and hanging out. It absolutely just ratcheted up in not even quality, because it was already high quality, but like the impact of everything, of the connection to story, the connection to character, the connection to just like actually get that's the thing, is the fact that James Gunn and his crew and his cast makes you give a shit about such a shitty guy,
right?
Because like he's a person dealing with trauma,
right? And
that is a very accessible way to say, hey, this is just a guy who happens to have gone through some shit. You would probably like him if you talk to him. Like it is one of those things that James Gunn is just very good with.
Yeah, redemption stories in particular, whether it's Guardians or any of the Suicide Squad, is a great example too, where he's taking a bunch of characters that are inarguably bad people most of the time. Like Peacemaker, especially at the start of the show, is not a good guy, right? Like he has the ability to be good, but he has not been so far,
Yeah.
right? And it's funny because you have Vigilante too, and you kind of see Vigilante is basically Peacemaker with no filter and no sense of self whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And you get hints at, oh no, Vigilante is actually really, really dangerous. And I was sure for like the first 3 or 4 episodes that we were gonna get a turn where Vigilante would break from Peacemaker and he would become an antagonist
Against each other.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And that never happened. And I think that's a thing that they could do, but I don't know.
I am glad that it didn't go that way, because I do like this whole show boils down to healing and healing through how do I want to put this? Like it's
Maybe found family or
yeah, and that's another James Gunn thing, but it's like it is realizing that Peacemaker Chris put up walls.
Right.
He put on that armor, both literal and figuratively, but like he put on that armor to keep people away, and that's his personality, is keeping people away. So that's why he says like shitty stuff to people. That's why he just does the things he does. So it's really cool to see, because if he had no connection to anybody, I think it would be harder for us to connect to him. So
for sure,
before he can become or before he can sort of expand those relationships with the rest of the team, I think we needed that. I think we needed one person that was on his side, and so like vivaciously on his side with
enthusiastically on his side.
Yeah, he makes it so we can instantly sort of embrace Peacemaker a little more than just like, okay, well, we like John Cena, so we should. So I do love that they stuck with that, because it kind of is like a brotherly relationship a little bit like that. It is like very much when my brother and I were younger, we were that way, because I am the little brother and I was a little shitbag to my older brother who got very tired of my shit. But yeah, so I think that hands down the best stuff in this show is that relationship stuff. Like just the way that like, and we can get right into like spoiler stuff towards the end of the for the end of the season right now. Like the moment in the finale, like the finale is just one of my favorite episodes of any TV show ever. This is as flawless a season of TV as I've maybe ever seen. But like in the finale, when they're in the hospital, they're in sort of the waiting area, and Chris says, "Don't tell V, but behind Eagly, you're my number 2 BFF." He is speaking to Leota. Like it's absolutely like this is a Peacemaker show. Like we shouldn't be getting emotional about his characters, but like the way James Gunn is able to do these things with these characters, and like you can see it in his face, you can see it in her face. Like that moment meant something to these characters. Like her lip quivered. That'll get me like every time.
I think it's funny is not the right word, but it's amazing how subtle a lot of the acting choices are, that if you go back and you watch it 1 or 2 times, you start to like, you notice little choices that the actors are making. You're like, holy crap, everybody's on this is really talented and working really hard.
Yeah.
This is great.
And it's not like it's not a talented cast that we didn't know they were talented or anything. But like,
that's a good point.
Especially with Cena, who is like, this is like, it needs to be up for an Emmy for sure. Yeah. Like this performance is nuts. But like we expect him to be like a funny guy, and he can be like the action star kind of guy. I never expected the depths that he went to in this show.
Oh yeah.
The quiet moments where he is playing piano.
Yeah.
Like, who knew he played piano, let alone he could do it that well? And just like having this quiet moment where he is thinking about his brother. He's like, it's
playing on piano, the last song he listened to with his brother before he accidentally killed him. I'm like, woo, this is
absolutely
than I
brutal.
expected.
So what are some of your favorite moments, whether it's, action or jokes or whatever from the show?
Favorite moments in the show, everything with like the easiest answer is the vigilante stuff when he gets into prison and he confronts the racists, and the speed and the delivery of the dialogue. I'm just like, I am 100% on Vigilante's side now. This is great.
Freddie Stroma is playing that role so well. He is absolutely eating it up.
Yeah. It was so good. And then, like, that's the first time, too, that you see Vigilante actually display any kind of, like, ability to fight people. Like, he's blown stuff up in the woods with Peacemaker, but you've never actually seen him do
his talents.
Yes, exactly. And you discover, oh no, he's actually very, very good at murder.
He's capable. He's just out of his mind.
Yes, exactly. And it really, that's where the character turned a corner for me. So that was a big one. I loved the John Cena is just gonna name 80 people in under like a minute of people he could have framed. That, like, I know that went floating around on the internet, but I have to tell you, my favorite moment that happens in the entire series is when Steve Agee gives the, like, monologue about why his character dyes his beard. And it is just so completely raw and heartfelt and, like, just so honest, where this character is being as truthful as possible in this moment and completely vulnerable. And I'm just like, holy crap. Like, it was like that again is like, I knew Cena could act. I knew Cena could be funny. I didn't know that Cena could be that level of dramatic. It came out of nowhere with Steve Agee. Like, I know Agee would be funny, but like
I've seen Agee live before. It wasn't him doing stand up. It was the at midnight stuff at when they did it at Comic-Con. Yeah. But like he is always, and I've known about him for a very, very long time, being a fan of the comedy scene, and I've always seen him in shows, Sarah Silverman show, hilarious, him and Brian Posehn. Like, I've always seen him in these like doofy loser roles, and he's in that role in this, but he's not as, like, he is the butt of the joke for a lot of it, but like allowing him to be humanized outside of that is something that, like, another person in charge wouldn't have done. Like, that is, and you said it before, like, Gunn's really good with redemption stuff, but like, even more than that, I think that James Gunn is best at allowing outsiders and losers to shine. And that is why Guardians works. That's why this works, because there are not many people in this show that are like just capable agents. Like, outside of Harcourt, that's it. And shout out to Jennifer Holland's shoulders in this show. Unbelievable arms. That woman am jealous of
very
it.
Attractive. Very attractive.
But
well done.
Well, not even just attractive, just unbelievably sculpted and muscular in a way that I will never achieve. You are closer than I am.
Listen, I work out, but I'm not going to be Jennifer Holland cut. I'm too old.
It's crazy.
In my younger days, maybe.
But yeah, outside of Harcourt, like, this crew is all underdog outcasts.
Or aliens.
Or that, yes. And we'll get into how that stuff went too, with how cool that shit was too. But it's just, this show and James Gunn's best work will always rely on his talent for making that come through. And
yeah, I agree.
This, I think, is probably his best effort with that. The fact that he was able to surpass Guardians with that, like, as like Super.
Yeah.
This is when I was watching it and getting to like episode 5 and we were getting closer to the end of the show, I came to the conclusion that this was like a culmination work for him, where he, like, there is so much of Super in this show. There is so much of Slither in this show. There, like, his trauma early years up into through the Suicide Squad, like, you can see pieces of every bit of his work through this show. And it's,
I mean, they literally chainsaw a gorilla in this show. Which, we haven't even talked, like,
I thought originally, because they said it was a silverback gorilla, I was like, is this how they're going to do Silverback? Are they going to like bring him back like that gorilla after he gets chainsawed up? Are they going to make him a cyborg gorilla and that's Silverback? But then I looked into it and his name is Charlie, and it's a character from a comic from like 1977 or something called Sergeant Gorilla.
God, that's amazing.
It's like the deepest cut. Like, it's a standalone comic, but it's a 1-issue standalone comic. It's like the craziest thing. And that's like, James Gunn's good at those deep pulls that like you expect kind of cameos, and a lot of the time in this show it was just verbal cameos where like somebody's referenced, like they reference Green Arrow and stuff, and then you get that finale though.
I love how they reference Batmite. He's an
canonized
interdimensional
Batman
imp that stands Batman. I'm like, oh my god, that's perfect.
And I don't think you get that reference as a actual like character exists in this universe if you don't have Spider-Verse before it. Like, as much as James Gunn will do the weird stuff, like I think this was the beginning of that. But yeah, it's to go into like the Slither stuff, like the whole plot of this show is invasion
Alien
of the Body
takeover.
Snatchers, and like it's one of my favorite versions of that. Like, the fact that he was able to do so many of like, this is my favorite version of this, this is my favorite version of this, this is my favorite, is a miracle. Like, and on top of that, he did it during the pandemic. Like, or I should say they did. I don't want to take it away. Yeah, and I don't want to take it away from, you know, the cast and crew when I say he. So I should say they on this. But like, it's crazy what they were able to accomplish with this show in the pandemic. But like, on top of that, I think this is probably James Gunn's most personal work. Like, there's stuff in this that I think is him re-examining, like, the shit he went through after, like, the right-wing out of their mind people got him fired from Marvel. And like, I think he was re-examining a lot of the stuff that he was going through.
I mean, that sucked at the
some of the
time,
jokes, some of the jokes in this are sort of the same jokes that he got fired for. But like, it's still like, I think that was him dealing with like, and this is like, you know, this could be completely off base and not correct, but like, the stuff with Chris killing his brother is almost like him looking at how he may think he killed his career at one point, but he was able to move on from that and move forward from that. And like, I that could just, a lot of this stuff could be me picking up meta things because I know that's like real life story now. But like, it to me does come through that he's like, he is re-examining his life over the last few years and just putting it on the screen in this absurd comedy drama superhero alien invasion show, which is like wild.
Like, it's so, there is so much that happens in this show, and it's not the big spectacle stuff that I think really sticks with me. Again, they chainsawed a gorilla. On any other show, that's like, that's the climax.
The moment. That's the moment.
What happened? Well, then we chainsawed the gorilla in episode 8. No, it was like episode 5. But even still, it's not even those wild, crazy moments. It's like, you know, it's Peacemaker playing the piano. It's Vigilante looking at Hardcore at one point and saying,
I think I made it worse. That
I think I
moment.
made it worse.
Oh man, when you see that character have a vulnerable moment, you know shit's gonna get heavy. Like it's nuts.
And Adebayo's relationship with her wife and all of that is just like, this does an excellent job that I wish more superhero media would do. It's that the spectacle and the big goofy costumes are all secondary to creating characters that if I don't always like them, I at least want to see what happens next with them.
Yeah, you're invested. You're invested in the characters first, and the spectacle is icing on the cake.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If we're going to talk spectacle, we're going to talk the cameo.
Yeah, we can go into that. Yeah, the stuff that was the big team from DC but filmed on a Marvel set.
Yes. Well, at least one of them in any rate.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I love how I think it's awesome that they got the Justice League. And honestly, if they'd have just sent Aquaman, I'd have thought that was awesome too.
Yeah.
Like, it was a fun little cameo joke, and it was nice to be like, oh, hey, there's other stuff going on here. I like that it's unintrusive world building. Where, hey, we brought him in for a quick second, and it was probably expensive to get Momoa to say like 3 lines and Ezra Miller to say like 2. But, I thought it was worth it.
Oh, for sure. And it's well, there's that whole side of it I think you're about to mention, which is like the Snyderverse crowd that is mad about it. But like I think people need to disassociate point of view in these things. Like in a Justice League movie, I don't want the Flash and Aquaman like dropping F-bombs and stuff, but you're seeing them in this show. So like you're seeing it through Peacemaker's point of view. So like the response is through his eyes. So you have a little bit of different perspective on it. And I do understand the frustrations of, I think scheduling is the biggest issue with like Gal not being there. I think there's Henry. Well, I think the Henry Cavill stuff is a little more complicated than that, even with like what are they even doing with Superman at this point? But like there's no Batman for obvious reasons. There's no Cyborg for obvious reasons. And that is unfortunately the case, but that's not James Gunn's fault. Like he's not going to be able to go over the heads of WB and be like, Ray Fisher,
I insist upon a Batman.
Yeah, well, it's not even that, but like I think a lot of people are rightfully upset about the Ray Fisher situation, but like can't let go of the fact to a detrimental extent where they're blaming the creatives on the shows that are trying to give you good stuff, and he can't do anything about that. He's not going to be able to make that olive branch suddenly appear from either side to make any of that stuff be fixed. So it is an unfortunate thing, but like it's also the reality of the situation of like he's just trying to give you something good that he can give you. I will say I didn't love the I don't mind the F-bombs. I don't think I would prefer Aquaman dropping the F-bomb, but like I think it is fine in this show because it's it's a rated M show.
Exactly. I mean, this is a hard R show if you can give that kind of rating. But I will say he drops the F-bomb twice. I feel like it would have been more powerful if he'd have just done it once.
Just once, Restraint is always better for that kind of thing.
Or also he could have not done it at all, and I don't know that I would have missed it. But that's me Monday morning quarterbacking, so I don't really care. I thought it was fine. Yeah,
and it's I'm just happy that they were able to actually get them instead of when I first saw them appear. My thought was, oh, this is super cool, but like they're gonna keep them in shadow.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
they're not
That's
gonna
what I
show
thought,
any
too.
actors here. They're just gonna be shadows
Yeah.
of showing them as statues, and that would be fine. It would work for this.
Yes.
That's totally okay. But it's the fact that they were able to get two of them is
It's pretty great.
pretty awesome, because it does.
And they have fun banter.
The verbal cameos are totally fine. The Green Arrow joke, all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
totally fine, and helps to like build the world out and reestablish that it is DC. But like, until you actually see somebody, it's just a reference. So like,
Yeah.
this
As much
kind
as
of
as much as I like the Batmite reference, and I know James Gunn has written like Batmite is canon, I just until you put Batmite on screen, I'm not sure that
It's
I
just a
necessarily
joke.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That said, I want Kite Man in season 2. Give me Kite Man. Love Kite Man.
Well, it would have to be a different Kite Man at this point, right? Because he said he stopped him with a bazooka or a rocket
Well,
launcher.
yeah, but that could mean anything. He had just been in traction for a couple months, and Kite Man's back again. Who knows?
Yeah, I feel like Kite Man's probably not as sturdy of a body as Peacemaker.
He's probably not gonna. If
He's got to have
Squad
hollow
2,
bones to be able to be up there. But yeah, so after we'll get to like where we want to go forward with season 2. I think towards the end, because I think that's kind of a cool speculation thing to go over. But like, the thing that I want to go over is the imagery of the butterfly alien stuff, because it really, because we haven't really had a James Gunn aliens movie. We've had like Guardians and stuff, but I just mean like being on Earth with an invasion kind of situation. A Mars Attacks, if you will. And I do think this is basically his take on a Mars Attacks, rather than like, Body Snatchers per se. It's not as heavy of that kind of story.
With Starro in the Suicide Squad, but it's very localized, and it's not
right.
It's interesting because with the Starro thing, it's more you join the collective of Starro and you die, and with the butterflies, it's an individual, because each of the butterflies is their own sort of person. Right? They're not a hive mind, so it's an individual taking you over, which is a little different.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like, I love this. I loved the Suicide Squad. It was one of my favorite movies last year. Yeah. But like, I don't think of it as like an alien invasion movie at all.
It's
just
not
because,
really.
because it's. I mean, it happens to have like that alien kaiju stuff towards the end, but it is just like a comic book super movie. So it's, but the stuff that I loved about this is he was able to pull in a lot more of his early horror stuff. He was able to pull in a little bit of Slither, but like, and granted, Snyder directed this. He just wrote it, but like Dawn of the Dead imagery of like fast zombies was so good.
Yeah. You have, what's her name? Detective Song, Goff, whatever you want to call it. The main butterfly possessing Annie. I think the actress's name is Annie Chang. And she's walking into the police station with all of like the butterflies behind her, and monster plays. It is legit scary. And then seeing like the effect of the butterflies flying in your mouth.
I forget both the actor and the character name, but Chip from Scary Movie. When you see
the
him,
hapless dipshit detective, but nice guy.
For both of them, I was so sad when they got taken over. Like, it works tremendously for the show, but like, Gunn invested me in these characters, starting with the intro to the show. But like, it is one of my favorite images from the whole show is when he is running down the hallway, and it's just, you can't even see behind the butterflies. There are so many of them. And it ends up looking like the meme of the little girl running away. Oh, yeah. But like, just the way that he handled. Yeah, that whole scene is terrifying.
And at the end, where they're all practicing smiling.
Oh my God! The guy that was the mercenary friend of Myrn that like helped him out in the woods and stuff.
The character's name is Locke. The actor's name is Chris something. It's
The
with an H.
Joker smile he has on in
Oh
that
my
scene
God,
is
yeah.
messed up. So yeah, I really adored that Gunn was able to like, pun not intended, stretch his wings out, and like pull from these different sections of his work, because like, as much as I love Guardians, it's fairly straightforward what he's doing with like genre in that, whereas
Yeah.
like this is just so many different things equally balanced all at the same time, and it is one of those things where I'm just like, how does he do it? How does he manage to fucking do this?
He is very good at his job. Very
Yeah.
good. I hope that I'm that good at my job or anything that I do. Yeah.
I can't stop myself from eating sweets that are in the house, so I have no hope for for being good at anything.
I need the discipline, and that is sometimes the difficult.
Yeah. ADHD is a real rough thing to deal with.
It can be tricky. I
Yeah.
found medication helps.
That is true. Yes. But
Maybe
so
not true for everybody, but for me.
going from there, where do you think you see the show going forward? Because we end the show with Adebayo like revealing everything
Close
to the
up
press.
Task Force, yeah.
Yeah, and saying that her mother is the one that did it.
Right. So it's interesting because, as I understand it, they're still going to do a Suicide Squad 3 or some sort of next Suicide Squad movie. So I don't think this gets rid of Task Force X completely. I
Right.
do think we'll see more Suicide Squad stuff in the future. I don't know if it's still Task Force X, but I would be surprised if they just go forward and say, "Oh no, this is done." And there would be more comeuppance for Amanda Waller that we just don't get here, which I think you have to have in a Suicide Squad movie because she really is kind of the main antagonist for those films.
Right. Yeah. At least for the group's personal stories. Yeah.
Exactly. And I as far as where it goes next for Peacemaker, I think that's tricky. I think you get some hints of it because, Augie, his father, is still sort of there in his mind.
Oh, we didn't even talk about that.
Yeah.
The fact that he now has this lingering presence in his mind.
Yeah.
I could not get over how much I love this kind of trope, but like, I was like, this is Arkham Knight. This is Mark Hamill Joker in Kevin Conroy Batman's head in Arkham Knight, and I really, really enjoyed how they went that route with it.
Now I'll have to go back and look because it's been a hot minute since I've gotten very much into Peacemaker lore, right? But I think one of the deals with Peacemaker is that his helmet is haunted by the ghost of his father, which is not in the comics. Augie's it's not
it's not the dragon. Yeah.
Yeah, but he was either a Nazi or a Nazi sympathizer or something like that. And I'm sure this may have been retconned 1,000 times to Sunday. So I kind of wondered, like, it's shown that Augie is the one who's creating the helmets for Peacemaker. Does one of those helmets have like a backup copy of Augie that's more or less haunting Peacemaker?
Explode his.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't think they'll need to do that because this is the real version of that. So I don't think they'll have to go with that route. But I do think that he's going to be like the reverse Jiminy Cricket, where he's going to be kind of trying to steer Chris Peacemaker away from the right decision. Right. And basically it's going to be up to Peacemaker to say, like, no, if you're saying that, I need to go this way. But yeah.
I really think the tricky part for season 2 is I don't know where the character goes from here, right? Like that's why it was interesting to use Peacemaker in this series to begin with, because at the end of the Suicide Squad Peacemaker makes the wrong choice, kills Rick Flag, decides to stay with his quote unquote ideals in favor of hurting the people that we've all come to care. Whereas the other characters like Ratcatcher 2 or most especially Bloodsport has decided, hey, look, I'm not going to be scared of rats. I'm going to try to be the good guy for once.
Yeah.
Right? But now you have that in the Peacemaker show. Peacemaker makes the decision to stand by his friends and not, blindly follow his ideals of peace, no matter how many men, women, children, etc. it takes. So how does the character grow? You got a couple options, and I think the most obvious one is in what you're saying, that Augie haunts him, and we learn that, hey, you don't just suddenly make one good decision and now you're a good guy. It's a constant thing of trying to fight the trauma and the what do you want to call it? Your negative impulses for the rest of your life. And that might be interesting. But I don't really know where else you go, because at this point, Peacemaker's kind of a full-on good guy.
Good guy with this is going to be kind of a weird comparison, but like he's got red on his ledger. Like he's now trying to do good, but has a past that he does sort of need to still pay for a situation. But like that does lead me to my thought on, like, we're sort of talking about character, but like for plot on season 2, I think that it's going to be, like you said, Amanda Waller is still going to have a team. Like she's going to have a team. I think that team is going to be, once again, regardless of if there's a Suicide Squad movie, like a third movie, whatever.
Yeah.
I think she's going to have a team of somewhat more capable, but not high profile people to go after them while they're on the run.
Oh, there you go. So like get the Peacemaker.
Right. Because like if this squad of people and her daughter have revealed what is going on, she needs to shut that down. So like I think where you were saying that Waller is the main antagonist, like for the personal people on the squad, I think we see that come into play in season 2. There will obviously be like dueling A plots, I think, where it's that and then like something else where they have to stop something while this other team is trying to stop them, kind of situation. That. But it's I because where it leaves off, I don't see how else they could handle that, because it's sort of the I am Iron Man moment of like, now they got to follow through on this, because this is a big thing to leave hanging. So
I would like very much for kind of the new Peacemaker, the better Christopher Smith, to now have interactions with like Bloodsport and Ratcatcher 2 and have to be like, listen, I did the wrong thing then. I shouldn't have tried to kill both of you. My bad. We can work together.
Maybe Idris Elba comes back as part of that squad, though.
That would be
maybe he is one of the ones hunting them, and that is the final confrontation, is them having to just Sandman and Spider-Man it and have an I forgive you moment.
Just hug it out.
Yeah.
The same sized bullets.
Just how do you hug with bullets? But yeah, I am thrilled that we were talking in DMs the other day about like, I thought there would, because they were probably sitting on the information of a season 2 for a while. I thought there was going to be a tease for a season 2, which, I think we kind of get in the show with like the revealing of Waller and all that stuff. But like, we didn't get that post-credit stinger that I think I was kind of alluding to. But like, I'm stoked that we do have that information, that more is coming, because this is, it's unfortunate. It's annoying because Letterboxd doesn't let me rank them because it's a TV show, and only Marvel for some reason gets allowed to do that. But like, I do think this is one of the best things that has come out of this current stretch of DC entertainment. like I'm stoked for the Batman coming up. I think that there is a very good future moving forward. I'm
Agreed.
really excited for the Flash and Michael Keaton to come back and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I like that they're doing a bunch of different weird stuff. I like that a lot.
Yeah,
So,
well,
like,
that's
I
the
may
thing
not
is,
always. Yeah.
it
Go ahead.
worked for DC to have these disparate universes when they were doing them before. Like we
Right.
got Superman movies that weren't directly connected to Batman stuff. We like you could see them sort of living in the same world, but you know, they were isolated. And I think that the interconnectivity of Marvel stuff and chasing that for DC was just the wrong idea of how to do it, because they could have worked out this multiverse thing before as their Avengers, where they're building a bunch of franchises and then it's a multiverse and you bring it together and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Whereas like Marvel was building one universe and got to the multiverse. They could have just gone from the get-go of like, no, all these different things, maybe you'll see them together. It's whatever.
Yeah, why not?
Because like there's
Which, I mean,
Superman Returns had Batman references. Like it's like we saw that existing already. So it's you know, we have these things where Man of Steel didn't need to be followed up directly with Batman v Superman. Like Henry Cavill is a terrific Superman. He should just be able to exist as Superman without having to go the route of worrying about something to be built towards, because that singular movie, I think Man of Steel is, outside of like a decision made with the character towards the end of the movie, I think is a pretty great Superman movie. So considering, you know, we have Superman 3 and 4, those, it could have been far worse. And I do wish we
always be worse.
Yeah, I do wish we could have seen more of that exist before having to force the hand of a team up movie. Yeah.
I mean, I agree. I'm cautiously optimistic. I wish they would say more of like, hey, here's what we're gonna do with Superman. But you know, that they include him in stuff like Peacemaker, you at least have to kind of say, okay, well,
he still exists as a character.
Yeah, they're still thinking about him. It's not like they've thrown him away completely. It's just complicated. I will say I'm probably more pumped for whatever is going on in the Rock Black Adam movie. Yeah.
Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate is...
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like Dr. Fate, Atom Smasher, Hawkman. I'm like, okay, you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. That's
the thing. Is like it is another Justice League type of movie. It's just Justice Society, so it's a different vibe. So I mean, granted, it's a little bit weird the route they're going with Black Adam, specifically the one character, just because it is like, all right, you're making him an anti-hero when we don't need that for every character that is a villain. That is, but yeah, we'll see, because I do want to see like Shazam v Black Adam. Like I would love to see that actually happen. But I don't know if that's going to, the way that movie looks, the little bit of footage that we've seen from that looks very different from Shazam. So I just don't know how that is going to end up kind of coming together, but yeah.
And we'll see how it plays out. The point is, there's a bunch of interesting stuff happening, and I'm excited for what they're doing in a way I haven't been in a long time. Like I'm excited for the stuff that Marvel's doing, but I feel like a lot of the stuff that's coming out is more TV stuff that I'm excited for. Like Doctor Strange, the new Doctor Strange movie looks like it's going to be cool, but it also feels like a lot of,
until we get the next big name movie stuff, like the new like Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
It is sort of with the movies, it's not that it's an exhausted excitement. It's just that like it is still a little bit more of the same at this point, where the TV is allowing us to, you know, however you feel about the shows. Right. However you feel about how good or not the shows come out, we're at least like getting new layers to characters, that's what's exciting about that, because in the movies, for the most part, at this point, we know who all the big characters are, so it's hard to explore that as much.
Yeah.
Like that's why No Way Home worked so well, because we're exploring new stuff while homaging and showing love to the past at the same time.
Right.
But yeah.
But DC is like, here's a bunch of weird stuff because we can.
Right.
Awesome. I'm here for
Well,
that.
I think that is the you have more to prove, so just throw it at the wall.
Yeah.
It's sort of the thing that happens in the video game world of like every console generation kind of flips. Where, you know, PlayStation was definitely in charge last generation and Xbox was trailing very far behind, and maybe it hasn't fully flipped, but like it's a little more on par versus, you know, one being extra high, one being there, because even before last generation, then it was Xbox 360 was ahead, and like so it is this weird thing where like the console wars, which I don't think exist on the business side as much, it's always like the fandom, is the exact same thing with Marvel and DC, because it is always one trailing the other, and then the one that's trailing has to prove something, and then they come out on top. And that is what happened with Marvel. That is why they are on top right now, because they had something to prove. They were the ones that were going bankrupt at one point. They were the ones that, you know, there's an interesting business side of this whole thing that is cool to look into if you don't know as much of the history stuff.
Tying it all back to Peacemaker, I think a lot of what worked with early Marvel, and less so now, obviously, but a lot of what worked with early Marvel and is a lot of what works with Peacemaker, in that you're taking characters that at the time were relatively unknown. Like, it's really easy in 2022 to know who Iron Man and Captain America and Thor were, but in 2006...
they were the B team.
Yeah, at best. And they're like, well, we'll make a movie with this, we'll see what happens.
In the comics world, they were more well-known and not as much in the populace, Yeah,
exactly. But I mean, even still, like the big comics that sold around that time were X-Men and Spider-Man, and they had their movies, right? Those were the A-team.
And that's why X-Men books stopped getting made.
Well, and then they had the chance to do something with Iron Man, and rather than create this big mythic thing that had all these fans that, you know, if we don't do this right, it's going to piss off X, Y, and Z, they just went, look, we're going to have RDJ and the guy from Swingers put together a thing. There's not a bunch of stakes, but they're going to do something that they think is fun.
And we'll put a tease in case it works.
Yeah.
In case it works. That's the thing. So at that point they were hedging their bets. So that was I think that's
Peacemaker.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, you know, outside of he was the character that the comedian was based on, and he's got that big silver helmet, I don't know how much I could have told you about Peacemaker, the character, prior to the Suicide Squad in this movie, or the show. Right.
I literally only know the John Cena version of this character.
Yes. I don't know. Has there been other appearances?
Well, I just mean I don't know anything about the character's backstory in the comics and stuff. Like, I legitimately, and I chose not to investigate too far because, like, to me, this is now just the definitive version, because I'm sure that version is all well and good, but like, never gonna live up to this version at this point. Like, whatever. I'm excited to see where it goes in the future, as you are clearly as well. You've put too much investment in costumes.
What gave it away? So, the poster or the helmets?
A little bit of both. But yeah,
it could be a bit of both.
Yeah. So, you know, when that comes back, you are more than welcome to join again to discuss.
I would be thrilled.
Awesome.
And by the way, so I also do a podcast. I don't run it, but I'm just on it, where we do beer and bad movies. You're always welcome on that. I realize you don't drink. You don't have to drink to talk about crappy movies that failed, or not always crappy movies, because I have the best time when we talk about movies that this was not financially successful, but it's a lot of fun.
Hey, it's a successful movie if somebody likes it. That's
There
how
you
I
go.
always look at it.
I
Yeah,
love the
absolutely.
13th Warrior.
At some point, we'll have to. I saw you tweeting about it. But yeah,
I'll always tweet about 13th Warrior.
we'll have to work that out at some point too. Because yeah, I would be happy to do that as well.
Awesome.
But for now, all of that will happen in the background. But that'll do it for this episode. Please go and watch. I just did a bunch of trailer reactions that are on this very YouTube channel. And if you're listening to the podcast, that's on that very YouTube channel. But I've done stuff for the new Chippendale Rescue Rangers, which is somehow the second most watched video on this channel.
People like you in that hat. That's all.
It's,
I mean,
yeah,
it's a very
cosplay
you cut a
sells.
dashing look.
Yeah, it worked out all right. But I've done that recently. There was a bunch of stuff from the Super Bowl that I reacted to, the Doctor Strange trailer, and going back to like the Halo show and Moon Knight and stuff. So there's plenty of stuff to watch. So if you want to watch those, and you can subscribe and you can like all of that YouTube bullshit. So please do that because it helps me
Ring
a
that
lot.
bell. Ding ding. Right?
Oh yeah, you don't have to do that. I don't worry about that. I don't want to push notifications on your phone.
Fair
But
enough.
yeah, so keep an eye out for other stuff. I will be having a Legend of Vox Machina episode coming up soon with another
gotta
old
watch
pal
that.
of mine. It is very good. It is.
nice.
It is. As far as animated stuff goes, it's right up there with Invincible.
Nice.
Yeah. And
for them.
if you are not that well versed on Critical Role, I think it will get you heavily into it because it is excellent.
I keep getting the ads on YouTube with the epic voice guy, which perfectly describes where I'm at with this. You keep getting recommended this show from Twitch, but you don't have 400 and some odd hours to invest.
Watch this
Here's
instead.
12.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I can probably do that.
It's worth your time. Keep in mind, it is even though it is animated, it is very
Not
much
for kids.
closer to Peacemaker.
Yeah, I'll probably it'll be after I put the kids to bed, kind of thing.
Exactly, yeah. But that will round out this episode. Thank you again for watching, listening, doing all that stuff. And until next time, bye.
See ya.